Alrighty, let's see if we can fill in the first three from memory. Central angle kind of tells you the name within it. Central, center. The vertex is at the center of the circle. This is the angle we're talking about. That angle shines on this arc, and those are exactly the same number. The angle equals the arc. The angle equals the arc. If your picture looks like that, and the vertex is at the center of the circle. Not all angles look like that. Some angles are what we call inscribed angles, which means the vertex is on the circle. Let's say I draw this one. This angle, think of it as a light shines on this arc. Those are not the same number. The formula for that angle is it's half of the arc it's shining on. Yesterday we learned angles formed by chords. Those vertices or the vertex of the angle is somewhere in the circle but not at the center. So here's an example. Maybe I draw this chord and this chord. This is the angle I'm referring to. The formula for that angle is 1/2 arc A plus arc B. Remember, arc A is what the angle is shining on. It's shining out here. That's arc A. Arc B is directly across from that, or the arc it's not touching. Today, the angle is going to be outside of the circle. It's going to be formed by tangents and or secants. Please put your pencil down. I'm going to draw 3 or 4 things, and then I'll have you draw one of them when I'm done. So there's a couple options. Let's say I draw first, just I'm drawing. Let's say I draw 2 tangents. Think about where that angle is shining. It's shining right here on this arc. It's also shining on this arc. It'd be a little dimmer out there, be really bright right there, but it's still shining on 2 arcs. If I have, instead of 2 tangents, 2 secants. This was a vocab word from a long time, not a long time ago, activity 24. Can anybody tell me what a secant line is? Yeah. Yes, it goes through, touches twice. Good. Tangents touch a circle once, exactly. Secants touch twice. So here's a secant line. Don't draw this. And here's another secant line, a line that touches 2 times. If that's the angle I have, look at what that angle is shining at. It's shining onto this arc and this arc. We could also have, instead of 2 tangents or 2 secants, 1 of each. So let me draw 1 tangent and 1 secant. That angle is shining on this arc and this arc. There are a few varieties of what you could see. However, they all have the same formula. So pick up your pencil. We're going to go with 2 secants. So put a dot outside of your circle and draw any secant line you want. Any line that touches the circle 2 times. Draw another secant line. Put an X out here by this angle. Think of that angle as a spotlight. It's shining out. So it's shining on this arc. It's very close to it. So that would be very bright right there. And it keeps shining out. It will hit, the light would hit out here too. Here's the formula. Angle equals 1/2 outer arc minus inner arc. Do you need your phone on your desk? Oh, sorry. Thank you. Now just think of which would be outer and inner. Outer is like far out, like space, far out. Inner is close or in near you. So this one out here would be the outer arc, far out. And this would be your inner arc. Like I've said for the past couple days, today's notes only focuses on this type of angle. But when we get to a quiz, you will have to figure out which formula to pick. And the way you decide is you look at where the angle's at. Is it at the center? Is it on the circle? Is it somewhere else in the circle? Or is it outside? Whichever angle you have, that goes with a different formula. You will have to know these formulas. Every formula has a half in it except for the first one. This one is just half arc. This one is plus, and that one is minus. Let's get started. Number one, notice where your angle is. It's outside. So I'm going to write my formula. You'll notice I kind of abbreviate instead of writing the whole phrase, outer arc and inner arc. I write out minus in, meaning the outer arc minus the inner arc. Let's get started. Alex, what do you think the angle is? Yeah. Angle is that 24. Tyler, what do you think the outer arc is? Yeah, look at where it's shining. It's shining out here, it's shining right there. The outer or farther one is 118. Jacob, what's our inner arc? X. We've talked in other lessons about how you could distribute a half if you want. I think we're in a good habit of just getting rid of the half by multiplying both sides by 2. So let's continue that since we've been doing that in our other lessons. Multiply both sides by 2. X is not by itself, so I need to get it by itself. So I'm going to get rid of that 118. Ashley, what do you get when you take 48 minus 118? Some think, oh, man, I made a mistake. I got a negative. Is this negative a problem? No, because what's on the other side? Negative X. Not a problem at all. To get rid of that negative, you can multiply or divide both sides by a -1. And we get 70. You see how this is kind of similar to the past couple lessons? Every problem that we've done in the last 2-3 lessons starts with the formula. The formula is different. But once you have your formula, you plug into the formula, and then you do algebra. Sometimes the algebra is 2 steps. Sometimes the algebra is 10 steps. But they all start with the formula. You plug in the parts that you have. There should be one unknown part. And then you do algebra until you get X by itself. I'll tell you number 2 is probably going to be the longest one in terms of algebra, I think. Yep, number 2. Let's look at the angle. It's outside, so let's write the formula. Fill in your angle. 5x plus 17. Sometimes I highlight arcs, and then I look at which one is farther out, one that's farther away from the angle. 37x plus 5 minus the inner arc. All right, please stop if you have that done. I have purposely made a mistake on the board because this mistake happens to a lot of people. I think every single person last hour made this mistake because it's very, very common, but it's very easy to fix. Does anybody know my small mistake? It's a hard one. Here's what it is. I am subtracting the inner arc. The inner arc is right here, which is this piece. I'm supposed to subtract that inner arc. I need to subtract this. I need to subtract 23x minus 5. What I have written here is that I'm just going to subtract the 23x. I have to subtract the entire thing, so I have to subtract all of it. Very important to add parentheses, otherwise our final answer is not going to be right. Anytime your inner arc has a plus or minus, you have to make sure that there's kind of two things happening there. We have to subtract both of them. So we put it in parentheses. Let's go ahead and recopy everything we have, except for we're going to distribute that negative. Copy everything the same. I like to do one step at a time. So my step is I'm going to distribute that negative or subtract both of those parts. Questions so far? Okay, each person might do a different thing next. Some of us like to get rid of the 1/2 next by multiplying by 2. Some of us like to simplify all of this. It's up to you. I'm going to get rid of the 1/2 because that's what we've been doing a lot. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. I've purposely made another mistake. We've talked about this mistake before. What have I just done wrong? Good, I got 3 hands. 4.
You have to put parentheses around 5x plus 17, so you're multiplying both of them.
You got it. I multiplied this whole side by 2. Here I have to multiply this whole side by 2. Good. We're pretty good at the leftover algebra, so maybe you can do it on your own. I'm going to simplify my like terms on the right. Let's do a quick recap on this one because it was a little bit long. We start with the formula just like we always do. We plug in the parts, the angle, the outer arc, the inner arc. Everything after this is algebra. It had two tricky parts. We had to subtract the inner arc, which means we have to subtract that whole thing to be distributed. The other part you have to make sure, when you multiply this side by 2, you multiply this side by 2. I combine my like terms. I have x's here, so 37 minus 23. I have a 5 and a 5, making 10. Questions on this one? Okay, number 3, write your formula. Savannah, what would I put for the angle? X. Vinny, what do you think for the outer arc?
Well, that's supposed to be.
Oh, I think you're on a different question.
Oh. 2.
There you go. 220. Now the inner arc. I don't know the inner arc. When we don't know, a lot of times we just put X. Can I put X? No, you guys have gotten pretty good at not doing that. If there's an X anywhere in your picture, you cannot put an X anymore. So could I put a Y? You could put a Y, but there is no way to solve this one equation with 2 different variables. So you would be stuck here. It's not wrong, but you wouldn't be able to continue with 2 different variables in one equation. So that must mean there is some way that we could find this number. Anyone have an idea?
360 minus 220.
Yeah. Our circle here is only made up of 2 arcs. So if I subtract the part of the arc I have, that will give me the part I don't have. Connor, what's 360 minus 220?
140.
Thank you. The 140 is the inner arc. Don't multiply by 2, don't simplify, don't do anything. Look, X is by itself. That means this is our answer. We just don't leave it written like that. X is by itself. Grab your calculator. Just start typing. All right, here's what I would like for 4. I would like you to do 4 on your own. Check it with somebody around you. Then move on to 5. Then check 5 with somebody around you. Maybe the same person, because you'll get done about the same time. Then start your homework. Go ahead. I'll be walking around, but try it first.